Hi everybody, Matan Feldman from Wall Street Prep. Alright, so in this video I am going to use ChatGPT as an investment banking analyst. I'm going to talk to it the way a senior banker might request work product from an investment banking analyst, and we're going to put it to the test. This follows a video that I created using Code Interpreter, where I basically uploaded an Excel, a discounted cash flow Excel file to ChatGPT and asked it to arrive at a valuation based on the assumptions in the file. It amazingly did that. It parsed all the data in the columns. It understood what the columns meant, what the rows meant, and arrived at a valuation correctly. There were a couple of caveats there where, when I showed in the video it worked correctly, but if you tried again a few times, sometimes it got it wrong. 3 out of the 5 times I tried it got it right, twice it got it wrong. And the big part of the discussion in the comment section when I uploaded that video was, well, what does this mean for bankers? Does this sort of change financial modeling forever? Does this change how productive investment banking analysts are going to be? So I decided to take it further and use Code Interpreter for next step. Can it produce slides? Can it actually bypass Excel entirely and just give the senior bankers the answers that they need without even getting into Excel? For certain questions, you don't need to get into Excel if they're, high-level cocktail napkin type of analysis. So I actually created a bunch of prompts in a sequence of prompts so that to really mimic what an actual conversation might look like. And just not to spoil the ending here, but as I put in these prompts, what you'll see is that it is acting like a fairly mediocre analyst. It's getting most of it right, but then it gets some things wrong, and then you have to sort of nudge it in the right direction, and then it ultimately gets it right. So ChatGPT, based on what you're about to see, I think is a pretty mediocre analyst. Is it going to get better? Probably, and maybe that's not even fair because it's so fast that the fact that it sometimes gets it wrong and needs to be nudged is maybe compensated by the fact that it's super fast and super efficient. So let's give it a shot, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm gonna put this prompt in, and here it is. I'm a managing director. You're an investment banking analyst. We have a company that we want to market. I'd like you to put together an LBO analysis for it. I'm going to give you some assumptions, and then I need you to get to work. Company's Acme. It's going to do 50 million in EBITDA, 300 million in revenue, 60 million in debt, 10 million in cash. With some cost cutting, you should see 10% EBITDA growth for the next few years. I think it'll go for 10 to 12 times EBITDA, so let's just go with 11. I'm assuming a sponsor will contribute 30% to fund it. I think with some window dressing, we can exit at 12 times. It's got CapEx and working capital, so I'd assume for simplicity that equity holders get no cash flows until exit, and the debt amount needed to fund the deal stays on the books unchanged all the way to exit. What's the cash-on-cash return to the sponsor, assuming a 5-year hold on this thing? So a couple of things. I'm talking to it the way a senior banker might. Not getting too explicit with details, just enough to get the job done. Not really being too explicit with formulas. I'm just being pretty colloquial. Just go with 11. I'm not explaining that it's enterprise value to EBITDA. Let's see what it produces. All right, so it came up with an answer. It made a couple of common mistakes that you actually see bankers make. So let's go through this. Purchase price is calculated $550. That's right. Contribution is 30% of the purchase price at $165. That's right. But then it forgets to factor in that there's a debt balance at exit because that cash-on-cash return is way higher than normal. So let's see if it actually tells you. So the proceeds, 966. You can see that's here. It's just forgetting to take out that 385. So I'm gonna talk to it. I'm gonna let it know, hey, you're using the wrong debt to calculate equity at exit. Remember, I said use the debt amount needed to fund the deal, not All right, so you're correct. Let's see if it actually runs it correctly now. Perfect. It got the right answer with just a little bit of prompting. So for everyone saying, hey, it's not perfect, you're 100% right. It's by no means perfect. It is as perfect as some junior bankers. So let's give it a little bit more work to do. Okay, so it got the right cash-on-cash return, 3.52. So remarkable work. And now, what are investment banking analysts good for if not to create a good slide? Let's give that a shot. Create a nicely formatted one-page PDF in landscape mode showing a sensitivity table with a range of cash-on-cash returns based on an 8 to 12 times EBITDA range of entry and exit multiples. Include a few bullets above the table summarizing key assumptions. Below the table, provide some qualifications about what the simplifying assumptions have been made. Because again, this is a pretty back-of-the-envelope analysis. That's typically what you get at the beginning of a deal. What are we looking at? Before we have a ton of information, we don't necessarily need to build a full model. Let's just get some basic information good enough for a pitch. Let's see. And then just to throw in some more typical sort of banker speak, the format I asked to be super tight. Let's see what it does. All right, so it created the file. It's putting in all those qualifications. I don't think I can download the file, so it looks like it made a mistake somewhere. Before I have it redo it, let's just see if it got the numbers right. So at an 8 times entry multiple, 8, and an exit, it got the numbers perfect. So it just built a sensitivity analysis, created it in a PDF. Again, just mind-blowing stuff. I've got the table here. It's exactly right. It's doing data tables, spitting them back out in a PDF. The qualifications here, let's see if they're any good. Everything here looks good. Qualifications are perfect. We've made several simplifying assumptions, such as constant debt, no cash flows. These assumptions may not hold true in a real-world scenario. The EBITDA growth rate assumed to be constant in reality may fluctuate based on several factors. This is incredible because not only is it getting the numbers right, it's also producing slides that are with the right information. The qualifications are exactly right. So it didn't actually produce the PDF. So let me just prompt it. Can you recreate the link PDF? I can't access. All right, it's created the PDF. Let's see what it looks like. All right, so it didn't follow my instructions to get it perfect on one slide. It needed 2, but I'm going to give it a pass because holy cow, it is just unbelievable. So it's got the assumptions on the top. It didn't quite squeeze in the qualifications on the bottom, but I think we're going to give ChatGPT a pass on that one. And again, the takeaway here is that this is incredible and that it is only going to get better. So a few things in reality. This took me a few iterations to get right. So in full transparency, there were times that I've tried this where it got the wrong answers. I had to give it more nudging. So in this particular case, I nudged it, I think I nudged it like once. You're using the wrong debt. But there were times when I ran this where I had to nudge it twice or 3 times. Regardless, every time I nudged it, in every example, it understood and it recalculated correctly, which is really all you want in an investment banking analyst. You want it to understand what you're saying and you want it to go back and fix it. And so this is today. This is what's available today from ChatGPT. So pretty remarkable stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video.